All right, thank you.
Now we're just going to go to visitors' comments. So, Mary Ann, we're putting that. All right, visitor comment. Anybody want to speak? Anybody? See it once, twice?
Mr. Roebling.
Everything just powered off.
Good time.
That's great.
All right.
My name's Chris Roebling. I'm a resident of Riverside. I want to note that this is I think this is the last meeting of the first year for the new members of the board. So this would be the completion of your first 52-week period of service. So may it please the board, I want to address the issue that was discussed earlier this evening about the parent organizations and booster clubs. Because if you're here to represent the community and to govern the high school in accordance with community standards and state law, then I suggest to you that establishing uniform standards for organizations that raise funds in this community from parents, from community members, taxpayers, either benefiting the high school or benefiting its staff or its students, is an essential task, especially in light of the longstanding Hazard, Young, and Attia mandate to restore integrity, which also means the perception of integrity, at Riverside Brookfield High School. Restoring that integrity, I submit, is a key step to earning back trust and support in this community for district goals, whatever they may be, for the district vision. As a parent, a contributor to each of the groups that spoke tonight, and a longtime director of a variety of Illinois not-for-profit corporations that are well-established 501c3s, such as Landmark Preservation Council of Illinois, Haymarket Center, the City Club of Chicago, Riverside Elementary Education Foundation, etc. I urge the board to adopt a very clear and specific policy of strict compliance, of accountability, and of disclosure for patrons, boosters, and RBEF. Why? Because you stand in the shoes of the parents and the community members. And I think the conversation that we heard earlier this evening can be rotated 90 or 180 degrees from the interests of the individuals we saw here representing these organizations as institutional representatives to the parent at home receiving the solicitations. So why is that important? Because as you heard, as this has been the case so often, the last meeting that I was here at early in March was a 3 or 4 hour activity dealing with an outbox that came from prior administrations and at least 2 prior boards. And I'm very sad to say that again tonight, you have spent, except for the last 40 minutes, which was brought on by Commissioner Huruska, all of tonight has been brought about by the failure of prior boards and the failure of prior administrations to address this topic head on. How do we know that? Because we heard about the lax administration of the activity cards. We heard about successive periods of indecision relative to insurance protection, protecting the taxpayers, ultimately, from liability judgments in law courts. We heard about a lack of data-driven decisions about what was being done, by whom, when, under what circumstances, such that you had several people come before you tonight representing organizations saying, we really don't know how any of this started. We're unable to find any memorialization of this agreement or understanding or practice or procedure, but it's how things have always been done. When things operate at that level, the external constituencies referred to earlier by Laura tend to see an organization that has failed to govern itself. And that's how you lose a perception of integrity. And unfortunately, at times you lose integrity itself. So what does the RB community ask for? It's not for me to say, that's your job. But I would say that I hope that your, Dr. Skinkis, conversation is imbued with a sense that these are corporations, and so they're reporting to the Illinois Secretary of State. They are 501c3s, as Mike Welch pointed out, and so they are relevant to the Internal Revenue Service, the federal government. And as charitable trusts, they fall under the purview and the jurisdiction of the Illinois Attorney General. And I can't imagine that this board would not import all of the reporting requirements that these associations have in their own proper corporate form to the benefit of the parent who is being asked to write a check for $100 or $500 or $50, whatever it is, 15. God bless them. Those dollars are tax advantaged because the organizations take upon themselves a burden of meeting certain requirements. Not once, not occasionally, not when a board chooses to ask, not when a principal says thank you, but at all times, in all of its actions. And so either these organizations are going to have a corporate integrity based on adherence, accountability, and disclosure, and thus be welcome into the community, or not. And I hope you will draw a very broad, bright line. I very much appreciated President Zelony's remarks, because I think he was very forthright about the prior regrettable, abject shortcomings. Some of us in this room requested from boosters for years, not once, not twice, over months and months and over years and years. And we were told falsely that they were compliant. Prior boards, prior administrations simply didn't care. It just simply did not get onto the agenda. I appreciate the fact after 52 weeks on the job, while vision is most important, you've been dealing with a patient bleeding on a table, and you haven't been able to get to that. I understand that, and I think people ought to understand that. And I think people ought to imbue their statements to their colleagues with a sense of the problems that have been overcome as they see relevant and necessary changes taking place. When it comes to things like boosters and patrons councils, I'm very sympathetic to the fact that they've gotten their corporate acts together. If you go today, and I'm happy to forward to any or all of you, for the record, Mary Ann, if you go today to the Illinois Secretary of State website regarding not-for-profit corporate compliance, you will find that the RBEF, which by the way is not the RBEF, it's the Riverside Brookfield High School Education Foundation. If you try to find RBEF, you will not find it. Okay? If you go to RBHSEF, you will find that today, Jesse White, Secretary of State, State of Illinois, cannot tell the people of this state who the president of RBEF is. He cannot tell the people of the state of Illinois who the secretary of that institution is. And I don't think it's acceptable to sit in these seats, as I have done for several hours, just like you have sat there, and to listen to, this is how we have always done it. This is the treasurer who has always been in charge. When we're talking about tax advantage dollars, and you're talking about people who are requesting funds in a period of economic stringency from the very parents you represent, I hope you will summon the courage and the fortitude and the determination to apply to these people closest to our community the same standards that we, the people of the state of Illinois, or we, the citizens of the United States, have elaborated relative to the jurisdiction of the Attorney General, the jurisdiction of the Secretary of State, and the jurisdiction of the Internal Revenue Service. I'm not asking for anything more, but I can't imagine that you would settle for anything less, which is what prior boards did, which is what prior administrations did, and which is why all of you in the 52nd week of your incumbency are having to spend time now, having to, in my opinion, very significantly waste time now on something that should have been done not 1 year ago, not 2 years ago, but should have been done, who knows, 10 years ago, 50, you choose it, and should have been kept at that level so that never would Hazard, Young, and Attia have the basis upon which to question the integrity or the perception of integrity at this fine school, this great institution representing this lovely community. It's a very solemn task, and I commend you for it. As always, I thank all of you for the time you put in and for the effort that is obvious from your conversations. People in this room, other folks around the community have walked into one meeting, they've seen a spat between people, they walk out, they say, I can't believe this board. That infuriates me, because they don't see the hard work, and they don't see the long meetings, and they don't see the working out of issues. They don't see the cooperative atmosphere, and they don't know the difference between this board and the decisions it's prepared to make in a fiscally constrained situation, and past boards that have been prepared to ignore constraints with a sense of somebody else picking up the tab. Well, ladies and gentlemen, life can be great when somebody else is picking up the tab. You can't borrow from the future indefinitely when you are the Riverside Brookfield Board of Ed, when you're District 208. Eventually, it comes home to roost. The very difficult task has fallen on your shoulders. I, for one, appreciate it, as I have done, I think, this may be the 6th time I've addressed you in this 52-week period. I thank you solemnly and sincerely for the time and the effort that you put forward.
Anybody else want to speak? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to go into closed session? Hello? Gary, you going to give a motion for a closed session?
Sure, I will give a motion.
Thank you.
Resolved that the Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, or dismissal of employees, collective bargaining issues, and litigation.
Have a second? Second by Mike Welch. Mary Ann?
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Fresco? Yes. Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Aldridge?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Mr. Cindy. Mr. Cindy.
Yes. All right, we'll see you downstairs, and can we try to make it in 5 minutes?